Welcome back to another episode of Paint Society. In this episode, we're going to review this professional yet do-it-yourself style dent puller. We're going to show you exactly how it works. Let's go ahead and get it unboxed. Now, the company is Vivor, and they're an up-and-coming company with a lot of different tools. They don't specifically specialize in auto body, but they do make a lot of auto body tools. So I'm curious to see, how does a company that makes a wide range of products venture into auto body, and how well is the product? Does it work really well? We'll go ahead and open her up. And the reason why I wanted something like this is because it is 120 volts, and it's something that everyone at home can use. So let's say you want to go ahead and do a little project here and there. You're not going to break the bank with this one. It's not overly expensive in my opinion, and it seems to do the job well for getting small dents or even medium-sized dents pulled out before Bondo. So let's take a look at what we have here. As we open up the box, we can see our dent pullers, a couple different dent pullers here as well. Now, I actually going to use my Harbor Freight cart, and I suggest when you're ever using any type of heavy equipment like this to get it on rolling wheels. Now, I'm not a professional body man, which is why I chose to do this video and get this product, but I can remove small to medium-sized dents, get them perfectly ready for paint them, and look like nothing ever happened. So that's exactly what I want to show you guys. Is this something that we can use? Now we can see here, it's a pretty well-built product. I was pretty surprised based off what I initially thought it might be. You can see it's kind of got like a gun here for the stud welding adjustments. Let's take a look at what's inside of the accessory package. Now we're all hooked up, and I'm going to show you exactly what all of this stuff means. First off, we have our ground. Now, the way that the ground works is you can use it as a standalone just like this. Make sure you grind to bare metal, and this will stick to your bare metal. Also, if you want to get a better bond, if you're welding a project that has a hole, what you would do is you would take this rod right here and you would stick it through that hole, and then you would put this back on, screw it on, and then you would have a even better grounding bond. Now, at this point, what we're going to do is use it just like this. Now we have another cord here, and this is a pretty good welder, I will say, and it's mainly used for thin metal. So projects like your car, but nothing too thick, it's not going to be able to stick and melt the metal enough to pull it. So this is a great alternative for those in your garage and you doing minor body work. Now, the one thing I liked about this is it has a spring here, so it really builds in that dummy-proof protection, so when you slide back, you don't actually put a forward dent into the vehicle. So this is how you would pull your dents out. Now, the way that this connects is it has this locking nut right here that comes with a wrench, and you want to make sure this is nice and tight. All this does is slide right into here, and you're completely good to go, and there's no reason to ever have to remove this unless you're using a different tool, which we'll talk about later. Now, from this point, you have many different tips that you can change here at the top of the stud welder. The first one that comes from the factory is going to be this triangle welding tip, and traditionally this is what we're going to use for many of our dents. So you will weld it on, pull, twist, it will come off, weld it on, pull, and twist. Now, back in the old days, you used to weld in a screw or stud and pull that, and sometimes that can be really messy, and sometimes even screw in a screw and pull that, and it will leave a hole in the metal. So this is modern day technology that's really making a big difference. Let's talk about the different things that you can use at this attachment. First and foremost, it comes with many different spare parts. So this is a triangle we just saw, and you can use each point, and it doesn't wear out quickly, so there's no worrying about running out of these. Now, if you want to use a separate attachment, these attachments simply just go right into the original adapter at the top, and what you would use for this is actually a key. Now, this type of key can be used to pull different dents out, and once you would change the attachment on this guy over here, now you can use this adapter. And basically what you would do is you would weld in this key, and from here you can do many different things. You can pull it just like this, or you can even use the actual hook tool, which we'll show you in a moment how it works. So you have many different keys, and once again, these can be reused. You're not going to get one use out of them. When you're done, you just put them back into your package and you're good to go. Now, we also have at this point another adapter that can be screwed onto the actual stud welder itself by just changing it once again. And what we would use for this is using our wiggle wire. Now, wiggle wire is new technology, and the reason why I like it is because it can bend to arches, or if you have a sharp knife, dent, a crease, this will be able to directly pull it out. Now what you would do is you would use this attachment and you would hit each one of these little points, and that would weld it to the surface, and then from there, once again, you can use this tool, this hook tool, to really pull it out. Now it has springs right here so you can move it around, attach it, and then once again we'll use our puller here to pull it out. So a lot of little nifty attachments as well. Now we also have a different attachment here, this pointed tool, and you just change it out like that. And you can also use this to weld on your wiggle wire, or you can use it basically again as just a basic stud welder to pull. If you have a creased area or sharp point, this will help and get it pulled out as well. So simple attachments that you can use. We also have these washer style that can be welded on, and once again can be pulled. But how do we pull it? Well, this is a separate dent puller, not electrified at all, so completely separate. And if you got a big old dent, what you could do is you could put this guy on. It comes with an adapter right here. Everything screws on. So if you have a big old dent that you want to get the majority of it, and you would not use a electrified stud welder for that, it's kind of like a plunger. You would just put this guy on right here, and once you got it all on, you would put it on your dent and give it a good pull, and then there you got your dent out, and then you could do your minor little tweaks from that point. We also use this for our hook tool that we mentioned earlier. Now if we want to use our hook pull with those keys over there, we would basically just take this adapter right off, and everything is really easy to use. Once again, you won't find any of this stuff in the directions. It just talks about the power settings, but if you look at this video, you're really going to know exactly how to use this tool perfectly. So at this point, if you welded in your key like we talked about earlier, and you have a dent that you just want to get it out, this would be stuck to the metal after it's been welded on. You'd put this guy in here, and then you would use the puller, and then you would slap it back, and then you'll get your dent to come out. Once you're done, you just turn this guy or wiggle it off. It'll come right off. You don't have to worry about it putting a big old hole in the metal because of the type of welder it is. It's set up for exactly what we want. Now the last thing is these tubes. Now this is going to be a little bit more advanced than what I'm going to be doing, but basically what this will do is sometimes when metal is dented, it will shrink and expand, and this is going to put a little bit of heat where you need it to be able to tighten up that metal. This is something that we're going to see in the future once I learn a little bit more, but some of you professionals will know exactly how to use one of these guys, and once again it will just fit right into this electrified stud welder, and you'll be able to do your work from there. But all we want to do today is just do a little fine-tuned movement of some metal, so let's jump on our project and get started. And here's the vehicle here. Now this vehicle had a much larger dent here and over here in the body line. Now this vehicle received some PDR, but it's going to need some tweaking. The first thing I noticed that when they pushed out the dent, it's a little bit high in this area just by feeling it. And now this is a center punch, and the thing I liked about this little trick I learned is that it minimizes the amount of force. So instead of hammering and really beating up that metal, we can really find where the high spots are and minimize it and really push it down. That way we don't have a whole dented area and weaker metal. So basically, I know I have higher areas because I can feel them. So without even putting in a guide code, I know this is a little bit of higher area. So we want to push it down a little bit. You can see how it kind of went in. So now it's starting to take the shape. So although it might look fine, as it got to the edge here, it kind of buckled out. Whereas the other end here, the flat end, is completely flat. Now we got our new bumper here that we're going to let hang off so we can use for test purposes, and you want to make sure that these two guys meet up. But yeah, this little center punch, I'll leave everything in the description for you guys. Big time saver. You don't have to go mess up all of the metal by using a hammer, and it really centers in on where you want the metal to be lower instead of hammering all over the place. So we can see in this area, it's still a little bit low, and that's where we really want to pull it out. It kind of cringed in here a little bit. So we'll see with the tool if we can get some of this metal out. Also in this area, it's a little bit high, so we want to center punch it just a little bit. I think in this area, honestly, it's going to be fine for body fill. There's no real dents in this area. They've been already PDR'd, but just a little bit of high spots were in that location. Now we're all set up. We put our dial over to dent pooling, and then you have a tab here that is a switch for manual or automatic. And basically what that means is if you pull the trigger on manual, then you will engage with the metal. But if you have it on automatic, as soon as you put the tip onto the metal, it'll automatically weld and pull. So it's really up to you. Now I'm going to show you how you put the ground on. And as I mentioned earlier, you can put this through a hole or you can use this on a card, and I'm going to show you how it works. So you find yourself a spot like we did here. You're going to have your trigger ready to go and put your ground where you want it. You're going to tap on the trigger. That's going to engage the ground. You'll put your gun down. Then from there, all you're going to do is turn this on all the way there, and you have a firm, tight grip. All right, so now you're good to go. So from this point now, we can start to pull our metal. So from this point, I'll find my low spots, generally just by feeling it, and I'll give it a little tug, twist. And bringing up those low spots a little bit at a time, instead of making big holes with studs or, remember in the back in the day, screws. You can see how it just barely pulls that metal just enough. You don't want to make big pulls here because you don't want to stretch the metal too much. I really like using the manual. It's easier because when you hit the trigger, it's good to go. But if you're a seasoned vet, the automatic might work better for you. All right, so you can also use guide coat by putting it down and sanding it. And wherever there is a low spot or black, you would still pull it over in this area. And the thing I like is this is so thin and precise that I can go all the way deep down to the bottom here, and I can still get a nice pull at the edge here, which is really nice. A big benefit. We want to try to put in as little as filler as we can, although this will need filler. There's no way around it. We want to use the least amount. All right, so still going around feeling where it needs. And this is pretty easy, guys. A do-it-yourselfer can definitely do this. I will say the directions don't have a lot of information, but I did go on YouTube and I actually learned a lot on how to use this welder before making this video, and made a big difference. So hopefully I can pass that knowledge along. Now, once you get to the point where you have a lot of pulling, then you can go ahead and give it a sand or a grind just to clean it up. And now that this is all sorted, if we needed to, and we don't, see this body line here? We could use this wiggle wire and we would weld it on our body line. If we didn't have a body line, then we could use a tool to get that body line with a pencil, and it would show us where it needed to be pulled out. But luckily for us, our body line was not affected here, but this is where you would use it. Now, if you had a tough crease going across, then you would weld that guy right in there, and then you would pull it as well. So there's a lot of different uses for it, and having the convenience right here on the cart with all of our tools really helps us get all of the dents out. So we're gonna see this many more times on the channel, but it definitely helped us out here. So let's go ahead and get some Bondo spread and get this thing closer to primer. And we can see with just one spread of Bondo, this thing is gonna be ready for some glazing putty and primer, just like that, because it's all nice and flat now. And the filler has taken up any of the areas really that have any sort of any divot or anything like that, but you just really want to keep the filler as minimal as possible. Well, that's going to wrap things up for the metal work on this one. I'll continue to do the sanding and the primering on my own. But guys, I got to say, this unit is a great do-it-yourself unit for the price. I got to say, you're not going to be using this on anything that you need to really pull a lot of metal, but it's a pretty do-it-yourself friendly. I will tell you once again, the directions really aren't that good at all. You're not going to find anything about what I discussed in the directions. So make sure that you watch the video thoroughly and watch it again. And if you have any questions, make sure that you leave them in the comments so I can go ahead and help you out as far as how these tools work. And if I did something that I could do even better, please let me know as well. But until then, guys, this is Brian from Paint Society reminding you, don't overthink it. It's just paint. I'll see you guys on the next episode.